Hello, homeschool friends, and welcome to this episode of the Homeschool High School Podcast from sevensistershomeschool.com and brought to you by the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Sabrina, and I am happy and joyful and jovial and laughing to be here with my friends.
And I'm happily Vicki, and I'm happy to be here with my friends.
And I'm silly Kym.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're goofy, and just to have a little bit of a goofy lead in is kind of normal for us, but we're intentionally goofy about silliness and laughter and joviality. Is that a word? Or did I make it up?
We made it up anyway.
All right, because we want to talk about humor and homeschooling, and especially homeschooling high school with a sense of humor. It's a lifeline. It's a lifeline. So hopefully you're going to laugh a little bit with us this morning. And if not, well, it's because you don't get dorky mom humor, because that's what the three of us excel in. And that's okay. I own it. I wear that badge proudly.
Yes.
You bet.
So we're going to start with the science behind it. Vicki knows all kinds of cool things about brains and counseling and healthy living with mental health questions. So tell us about laughter and mental health, please.
All right, so let's get serious here.
Very serious.
Yes. So really, scripture says a merry heart does good like a medicine. And amazingly, science found out that that's true. When we laugh, our brains release happy hormones that make our body healthier, like endorphins and oxytocin, literally boosts your immune system. It gives you positive hormones that lift your mood, but you literally are helping your body be healthier when you laugh.
Awesome.
And they found that information that comes in when you're laughing, like stupid math classes, if there's something to laugh about, that information will stay better. It'll hold in the hippocampus in the brain a little bit better.
Wow. See, the word hippocampus right by itself, it's a funny word.
I know, right? Like, how do they come up with these things?
I always pictures like hippos in little caps and gowns, like it's a hippocampus. But...
now we know what the little picture for this episode is going to be.
There you go. Well, that's so funny. Like, I feel like I have a living example of that. In my Spanish classes, my students, we do memory verses, and the one of the more recent verses we had was, and the peace of God will, which passes all understanding. And so the word in Spanish is sobrepasa, and the kids decided it sounded like sober pasta. And of course, we all laughed.
And
so then they started drawing little pictures of what they think sober pasta would look like. And then they, and I said, you got to be careful, because believe it or not, you're going to say sober pasta when you. But right. I said, I will forever now, whenever I hear or see that verse, I'm going to remember those two sweethearts drawing pictures of sober pasta on the board.
Absolutely.
It's
malapropisms are powerful. So we actually did a whole literature class focus one day on malapropisms, because we were studying which Shakespeare play is it? Much Ado About Nothing, that has the Constable Dogberry in it.
Yes.
And we're going to have a Shakespeare guide for that one of these days soon. I think I have that one almost finished. But anyway, so the Constable Dogberry is forever using the wrong word, and it's the very slightly wrong word. And I am married to a wonderful man who is the king of malapropisms. We call them Fredisms because his name is Fred, but it gets stuck to where you can't say it the right way anymore. Like years ago, he was a chemistry guy. He was a lab tech for his career. And so he likes the actual names for medicines instead of the brand names. So instead of Motrin or Advil, he likes to say ibuprofen. And instead of Tylenol, it should be acetaminophen, right? Except that he says, I see a friend of mine. And we've been saying, I see a friend of mine for when I have a headache. Hey, do you have any I see a friend of mine? I've been saying it for so many years that I have to think really hard to remember what the actual word is. Because I see a friend of mine is a whole lot more fun to say.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So,
I'm never gonna say this. I'm
yes.
never gonna say
Now,
it.
yeah, my world is forever
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
One of the kids will say something like profound to him, and he'll go, "Wow, you are wise behind your ears."
Mhm.
And
Yep.
it's just, that's
Yep.
how we all say it now.
Yep. Yep.
So those
Yep.
little things, if you say a word wrong, don't correct yourself. See if it makes you laugh. And if it does, just keep
Yeah.
saying it wrong.
Yeah. Well, what's cool I'm hearing as you're telling that story, Sabrina, is the bonding that happens between
Oh,
people when you
yes.
share
Mhm.
those
Oh,
things.
yes.
Mhm.
Now it's like this common kind of inside joke that you can chuckle to
Yes.
yourselves, but you can also, just like you did, share it with other people.
Right.
And then it's not like, oh, a big secret, but it's a, hey, let me share some
Yeah, it's
fun
not
that we
it's not
have
something that excludes people, but it's a way to, hey, join in the
to bring people
silliness.
in.
Yeah.
Don't take
Yeah,
yourself so seriously. Yeah, join in our silliness. So okay, so
absolutely.
that's a good thing. Let's talk very specifically about humor in
Mm.
homeschooling.
Mhm.
Homeschooling is supposed to be wonderful, and we have these expectations when we decide to homeschool, and we think
Mhm.
that we know how it's going to impact the family dynamic and what meal times are going to be like and how chores are going to work, and all of these things are impacted by our decision to homeschool, because homeschooling is not just an academic choice, it is a lifestyle choice,
Mhm.
right? It impacts so many things. And then we go from expectation to what actually happens. And it doesn't look exactly like we wanted it to every day. So there's a lot of room for disappointment and frustration in
Mhm.
homeschooling high school.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And if you have experienced frustration in your homeschool high school, you're doing it right.
Mhm.
It's a situation that it's going to
It's
sometimes be
part of it.
frustrating.
Yep.
But if
Mhm.
we intentionally say humor is going to be a part of our homeschool high school, we are not going to take ourselves so seriously that
Mhm.
we just get miserable and crazy.
Yeah.
Then you can choose to laugh. You can.
Yeah.
Vicki loves to say, "Watch silly cat videos."
Yes.
Right? Isn't that your
Yep.
your
It's
prescription for people?
it's an absolute vitamin for health every day. If you haven't had something else to laugh about, go to YouTube and watch silly cat videos. And at
There you
least
go.
if you're old like me, it's like, okay, it's working.
So
But
think about.
it's a
Sorry, go
good
ahead.
cure for perfectionism, because
Yeah.
we would love to do homeschooling perfectly. That was terrible grammar.
There you go.
And now I'm gonna laugh at myself. So
That's a
Right.
t-shirt.
yeah. So is if we learn to laugh at ourselves and know that when we don't get it perfect, that it is really more on the side of charming than it is a disaster.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
that's good.
That's
Charming.
really good.
Yeah.
we're just charming.
We
Yeah.
are.
I think I'm
Well,
cute when I mess up. Absolutely. So,
well, and what a cool school, cool, there we go. What what a cool skill to give our kids. It's literally a gift to
Mhm.
give our kids that sense that when you mess up, it's not a disaster.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It is, there's humor in everything if you look for it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's talk about
And
the kind
it's
of humor, because there's a humor that is not a good thing to foster in your homeschool. And unfortunately, it's something that teenagers can often be drawn to. And that's the kind that tears other people down.
oh my,
And it
yep.
can even be the kind that tears you down. We're talking a lot about laughing at ourselves,
Uh-huh.
but it's not in a mean-spirited way. It's the I'm so
Mhm.
stinking cute and charming when I
Mhm.
do silly stuff,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's not the laughing at yourself because I'm just such a loser. I always do this. Like,
Right.
so a big deal for me is I'm not very physically coordinated, never have been. And there's probably an episode somewhere where we talked about me having a tutor for gym class in the
I
fifth
remember
grade.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I really am not. So hand-eye coordination, not a good thing for me. And I spent a lot of years being so self-conscious about that and making jokes about it. But it was really like an insulting, like I was really putting
Mhm.
myself down kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when I began to realize it and began to work against that, there was a season where I couldn't make jokes about it,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I finally pushed through the other
And
side
now
where
you're
now I can. And like we have this at our church, we like to do dialogue after the message. A lot of times people can share how, you
Oh,
know, the word was
uh-huh.
stirring them or whatever during
Mhm.
that. And we have a throwable microphone. It's called a Catchbox. I'm not an affiliate for the company, but I'm a huge fan of the product.
You
So it's a
throw it?
microphone that sits in this foam square and it's like clicked down in there. And so it's all protected all around. And when it moves, it automatically mutes. So you don't get any whoosh noises and you don't get a clunk when it
Mhm.
lands. And so you can throw it around the auditorium and people can catch it, except that I can't catch. So sometimes I have something that I want to say, but I know that I can't catch it. And so you raise your hand and the catch box, you know, is going to be thrown to you. And then I don't even try. Like I just go like this. It's just funny. I'm not going to be able to catch it anyway. And so and now I kind of enjoy being the one who doesn't even try to catch the catch box because I just have to put my hands over my face, you
So
know?
it needs to be hand delivered there.
Yes, it needs to be hand delivered to me, or I can sit next to my husband who has great hand-eye coordination and he can catch it for me. But,
There you go.
but it's funny how there was this interim period of years where I actually
Mhm.
didn't make fun of myself about it because I had to quit being so embarrassed about it first.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm,
And then I got older and didn't care anymore and it wasn't embarrassing. So
mm,
that's a good thing
mm.
for our teens to learn, is that difference between having a sense of humor about yourself, or even gently and lovingly teasing other people,
Mhm.
as opposed to malicious or insulting or unforgiving, sarcastic, edgy, tearing people down kind of humor. And that's what a
Mhm.
lot of television is it's the tearing down kind of sarcastic stuff.
Yeah.
And it can be really, you can slide into it very, very easily
Yeah.
if you don't watch out for it.
What I
Mhm.
saw a quote that I thought was really calibrating is that sarcasm, that kind of teasing, is only sarcasm if you are using humor towards someone more powerful than you. So it's going upline.
Oh,
If you are using it with a peer, it's bullying.
Ooh.
interesting.
And I thought
Wow.
that
Can
was a
you
It's a
good,
repeat
power
that?
dynamic thing.
yeah,
How
yeah,
about
that
that?
human
Yeah.
beings, we operate on, whether we know it or not, on all kinds of power dynamics. And it's so
Mm.
sarcasm is only sarcasm. It's only funny if it's going upline to someone more powerful than you.
Good.
And that, but with
Wow.
peers, it's bullying.
That's brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
brilliant.
And that's, you know,
Wow.
that can save, you know, teens are discovering themselves and they're figuring out how to communicate with humor. And if they know that when they want to tease, they need to tease in the right direction.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that way they don't get peer rejection because they teased their peer.
Right.
Mm.
And that, you know, you can tease your siblings because they know you really well, as long as you don't get brutal with it. But teens need to be very careful about teasing peers because that
Mm.
feels to them like bullying.
Mm. That's fascinating.
Mm.
That is fascinating. Yeah. And sometimes what I've noticed too is sometimes it's very comfortable between two students, two teens. Like they speak that language and they're very comfortable with what's going on back and forth. But other people around them who don't speak that kind of language, like the two that are involved, truly neither of them feels like it's bullying. But
Right.
kids around them feel very uncomfortable with it because it's not a language that they are comfortable with, and so
Right.
they do. It comes across as bullying to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, it's,
Wow.
yeah, we just
Wow.
humans, we have these
Yeah.
power dynamics. Now I know, like where I come from, I was raised, you know, backwoods South, and we have a certain gentility about our humor, you know. So
Mhm.
when we moved up to the mid-Atlantic, you know, so the kind of the Delaware, South Philly kind of area, one of the ways boys show they want to be your friend is by insulting you.
Mhm.
And so my kids, you know, like they'd say, you know, where'd you get those Kmart shoes, you know, and the kind of stupid
And
stuff
that was
like
a big
that.
insult. Yeah.
And
Right.
and so my kids were just floored by that because it felt like bullying to them. And so they had to practice some I accept you as a friend insults back.
Mhm.
And so they learned this, you know, you can tell how old I am because they learned to say your face. So say like, so one of their new, like baseball friends would say, them's Kmart shoes you got there. And they go, oh, they're trying to be my friend. And they say, well, your face is Kmart shoes. And then they're best buds. All right. But that is a very localized set. Like they couldn't have taken that set of humor to church and tried that on their peers, because that wasn't church appropriate. That was baseball team, local appropriate. And so basically, we said, okay, when you're with your rough and tumble sports guys, and they initiate that humor, you go in kind back, and they had a bunch of tools they could use for that, like your face, and and it worked. But where that's not the norm, in most places it really isn't, then you only use teasing humor upline.
That's cool. That's cool.
That's fascinating.
So knowing your audience is part of what you're getting to there too. And in our family, we have often responded to tragedy with what has sometimes been called gallows humor. It's the famous Star Wars thing where Han Solo is about to be put into the freezer, and the I love you, and the response is supposed to be I love you too, and instead it's I know. And so that kind of gallows humor for some families, and ours was one of them. It's a healing thing. It is so helpful when we can make jokes about really tough things, but we know our audience. We don't do it when we're around other people who don't get that that's actually not a disrespectful, unloving, inappropriate, whatever. We're very, very select with that audience. And even within our audience, we found a number of years ago that the timeline is different. They say in humor for comedians, timing is everything, right?
Everything.
Yes.
And it's also true in the sense that when your family or your friend group likes gallows humor, sometimes it's still a little too soon for somebody in the group. And we had a really rough time in our family. Really tragic thing had happened, and we were all trying to work through the wreckage. And there was a lot of gallows humor in my house. But occasionally it was too much for mom. It was just, I wasn't there yet,
Yeah.
And so my kids created the too soon jar. And they made a gallows humor joke around mom. And I made the face, you guys, I wasn't ready for that one yet. They would say, okay, sorry, too soon. And they had to put $1 in the too soon jar. And when we had $20 in the too soon jar, we ordered pizza and celebrated the fact that we had survived that long post tragedy.
That is the best thing ever, Sabrina.
Yeah. So know your audience and know the timing of your audience members.
Yeah.
I
thought we were going to tell jokes today.
I do have a joke. I have to share a joke. So, I love the too soon jar. I think I put in a few dollars too, and I think I did one of the pizza runs too. Which is crazy. But so sometimes you have to take those. It's a way of kind of taking control of a situation that's out of control. When it's appropriate, right? And again, back to the audience, you can't do that with everybody, and you could do that with somebody else, and they would be like, it could be really
said that.
Stunning. So sometimes I was thinking of Sabrina loves to do karaoke. For anybody who is a karaoke fan, she's an awesome karaoke artist. So we were at a karaoke thing not too long ago, and Sabrina got up to do her karaoke, and the KJ, I learned a term, that's the DJ for the karaoke. It was a long time. And so here's Sabrina standing up here with the microphone, who's very comfortable singing in front of people and everything, but just standing up there with this long, awkward pause. And I realized that I had this joke in my phone that one of my son-in-law's coworkers is famous for telling really groany jokes. And so I'd been saving it to share with him the next time I saw him, but I pulled out my phone and I'm like, hey, Sabrina, how do you tie two Hondas together?
How?
With one accord. Terrible, right?
Oh, it took off from there then. People all over the room started doing corny jokes, and people couldn't hear them, and so then I would repeat them into the microphone. My favorite one from the audience participation part then was skeleton walks into a bar and says, "I'll have a beer and a mop." Completely stupid.
Funny thing with that one was like a lot of people got it right away, and other people are going like, "Wait, skeleton, mop, beer." Oh,
Oh dear.
So it's just so, and just like I'm just feeling all these endorphins from just from us laughing together right now.
Yeah.
So we apologize if our brand of cheesy humor is not your brand of cheesy humor, but we definitely encourage you to go get in touch with your brand.
Yep.
Yes.
Find something that will make you laugh. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And find people in your life that make you laugh, or that you can laugh with. I actually texted a friend this morning as I was thinking about this episode. Our friend Karen just has the most amazing sense of humor. I keep telling her, like, if you ever get bored, you could go do stand-up comedy for sure. Yeah. And so, I mean, she talk about tragedy. She has been through, lots of tragedy, and in a way that made so much sense to the people around her. Even as her son was dying of cancer, she still had a sense of humor about the things that were funny. She never laughed at the tragic part.
Sure.
But she laughed, in everything. You can look for, and it sounds really trite and really stupid, but it's really true too. If you look around, you can find the humor, and especially in those times when we're so emotionally tight and tense. If you get laughing, sometimes you just can't stop, and that's so therapeutic.
It is.
I have a book on my shelf. I'm looking up at my bookshelf here, that goes right along with what you were saying earlier, Vicki. There's this guy, he's somewhat local to us, I think, but he did his PhD on laughter, and he came and did a workshop for an organization I was a part of. And this is really crazy, but he said, like, just make yourself laugh. Like, you don't have to tell yourself a joke or whatever, but just try to start laughing. And the more absurd this laugh is, and in the beginning, you might need to do it all by yourself because you can't do it around people. But if you just start this laughing, and if you're with a group that you're really comfortable with, you don't even have to have the joke. You can start laughing, and you make each other laugh.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get laughing so hard you can't stop, and the tears are rolling down your face, and your belly's hurting. And don't you feel great afterwards? It's the cathartic cry and the laughter. They go really closely together. So sometimes we would find the humor in the really light little stuff, and sometimes it's in the really big deep stuff. And another thing that kind of occurred to me as we've been talking is there's humor and humility seem to go close together. Back to your point, Sabrina, about your gym tutor. You've always been really humble about that. I remember, just to throw out one of my very first times when I was teaching, when Vicki was the academic advisor at our school, and I was a new teacher, and I was all like, kind of gung ho and a little bit, figuring out. I still figure it out every day. But anywho, I came in, I was all excited. I was giving my first test, and I had them made up the test, and I got to school, and I went to hand it to the kids, and I realized it was at home in my printer. And I did not know Vicki or Marilyn all that well at the time. And I was like, oh my, it's just so sheepish and so embarrassed. And I remember Vicki came up the steps, and I went over, I had to rip off the Band-Aid. I went over to you, Vicki, and I said, I can't believe I did this. I made up this test, and I left the test home, and I can't remember your exact words, but you like smiled and you laughed and you said, oh, isn't that just, just like something I would do or whatever. And just that little bit of humor completely took away my embarrassment, and it freed me up to feel like, okay, so I made a mistake. Like life goes on. That mistake is not gonna make or break or define me or any of the kids in my class or my role in the school. So there was a lot of grace, and the humor was a part of that grace. And so thank you again for that. Many years later, it was a very profound moment for me.
And it gives us permission to be humble, like Sabrina and her phys ed tutor. So when I was a young mom, we lived in this little neighborhood, and one of the moms had this big empty room. So she decided to sponsor neighborhood Zumba classes for the moms. So she brought in this Zumba teacher, and I go like, yay, I can go do this with my neighborhood friends. And so at the end of the first Zumba class, the teacher calls me aside and says, well, this really isn't your thing, is it?
Proper.
Because she would say, turn left or right, and I'm trying to figure out which one that is. And so I got a Wii Fit. And, you remember those way back in the day. And so I said, well, I can't do Zumba, but I'll do the yoga on the Wii Fit. So in the Wii Fit, it had a little coach, little character, and it would talk to you while you did your exercises. So I'm doing my little yoga things, and the cats are climbing up my legs while I did it. And after a while, the little coach comes on and says, yoga really isn't your thing, is it?
Man, you've lived through some stuff, my friend. Oh my.
So I came to face the reality is bird watching is really my thing. So I go for walks for my exercise. And no little birds don't pop up and say, this really isn't your thing.
The chickadees were laughing at me again today. I could tell. Oh, wow. Oh, friends, we really hope that you have reasons to laugh hard every day. And we really hope, too, that you're hearing encouragement from us to have grace and humility towards yourselves and help your kids learn to have that towards themselves, and that you foster the don't take it so seriously kind of thing, and perhaps even install a too soon jar in your kitchen if something hard is going down, and that gallows humor seems to help. But whatever it is, know that your big sisters at sevensistershomeschool.com, if you ever reach out to us for customer service, it's going to be an answer with grace and a little bit of humor. I have answered a lot of customer email over the years that Seven Sisters has been around. And I can't tell you the number of times somebody has, Kim, you used the word sheepish earlier. I love that word. When someone has sheepishly written to info@sevensistershomeschool.com and said, oh, I know the purchase receipt said that I needed to download my curriculum files and save them to my hard drive, but I didn't do it in time. And now the link has expired. I'm really, really sorry. I feel so silly, or I feel so dumb. And invariably, my email back started with, friend, if I had $1 for every time that I have failed to save something to my hard drive, come on, we're all in this together. Here you go. Here's your files. Don't worry about it. So, when we say that we actually are homeschool big sisters, we really are. We've been there, and we've realized that life is way too short and too hard to grovel about downloaded files that didn't get saved. It happens. Chuckle at yourself. Ask nicely. We'll help whatever way we possibly can.
Always.
And so with that in mind, we do encourage you to check out the curriculum at sevensistershomeschool.com, because just as we are real homeschool moms, we are really passionate homeschool moms about the subjects that we've written curriculum to go with. And these pieces of curriculum are labors of love. They are not just some cookie cutter thing that got stamped out and processed someplace. These came out of our homeschools and our homeschool co-ops and our homeschool umbrella school, and all the years that we saw just amazing development happening in kids who were making it through homeschool high school one day at a time, right alongside their moms and dads who were doing it too. So check it out if you haven't before. And also check us out on future less silly episodes of the Homeschool High School podcast. Yeah, right. Maybe we come silly unexpectedly. So who knows? But yeah, we do hope that you will join us again and that you will share your stories too. If you do not follow us on social media, we have a wonderfully active Facebook group of lots and lots of homeschool siblings who are helping each other along the way. And we have Instagram with wonderful resources. And of course, we have blog posts and even lots of freebies to download in our ebook store. So check it out and be our 7th sibling. And join us again for future episodes of the Homeschool High School Podcast from 7sistershomeschool.com and brought to you by the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. See ya.
Bye.